Welcome to the Midnight Hotel, where every guest leaves a story behind.
The Miserable Child and the Wretched Maid. Part 5, The Ferryman's Mercy. Adrian Valecourt opened the door slowly. Miriam stood outside room 217, beneath the flickering hallway lights. Blood stained her maid uniform from collar to sleeve. Dark crimson spread across the front of her apron. The silver locket rested against her chest, beating softly, like a second heart beneath the fabric. For several seconds, Adrian simply stared at her. Then his eyes slowly lowered toward the blood coating her hands. His face paled immediately. "Miriam," she smiled. Not warmly, not cruelly, just wrong. Too still, too calm. Behind her, the hallway lights flickered violently once before settling again. The Midnight Hotel remained quiet around them. Soft jazz still drifted upward faintly from the gramophone below. Rain still whispered against the tall windows lining the lobby. The grandfather clock near the entrance continued its slow ticking. Everything felt exactly the same. Except for Miriam. She stepped inside the room without permission. The door slowly closed behind her by itself. Adrian instinctively stepped backward. "What happened to you?" Miriam tilted her head slightly. "Nothing," she answered softly. "That wasn't already waiting." The voice was hers, but layered strangely beneath it. Smaller, younger. The room suddenly felt colder. Adrian noticed the silver locket pulsing faintly against her chest. The crimson gemstone at its center now glowed softly beneath the dim light. Then, the memories began. Not memories. Visions. Fragments. Sharp and sudden. A woman crying beside candlelight. A silver locket clasped gently around trembling hands. Black roses wilting inside dark water. A lonely apartment. A tiny cradle beside a rain-covered window. And beneath all of it, the unbearable certainty that he would have abandoned her. Not because he was evil. Not because he intended cruelty. But because men like him always eventually left when responsibility became inconvenient. Adrian staggered backward slightly. His breathing became uneven. "This isn't real." "No," the child answered quietly through Miriam's mouth. A pause. "But it is true." The wallpaper around the room seemed darker now. The shadows deeper. Rainwater slowly crept beneath the windows despite them being fully shut. Adrian stared at Miriam in growing horror. Then he saw the mirror behind her. And briefly, just briefly, another figure standing within the reflection beside her. The little girl, barefoot, pale red dress dragging softly against the floor. Watching him silently. "She cried for you," the child whispered. Adrian swallowed hard. "I'm not him." "You are close enough." The room fell quiet again. The little girl slowly appeared more clearly within the reflection now. Not fully physical. Not entirely there. But enough. Enough for Adrian to see the sadness in her eyes. Enough for him to understand she truly believed what she was saying. And worst of all, some part of him knew she was right. Given enough time, he would have become that man. The realization hollowed something inside him. For the first time since arriving at the Midnight Hotel, Adrian Valecourt felt genuine fear. Not fear of dying. Fear of himself. The child took another step closer. "You promised her forever." Adrian's breathing shook now. "I never even met her. But you would have loved her." The child's voice softened slightly. "And then you would have left." Silent, Adrian slowly lowered his eyes. He could not deny it. That frightened him more than the visions themselves. The child watched him carefully, then quietly asked, "Do you know what she did after you left?" Adrian said nothing. She waited until the waiting rotted inside her. The locket pulsed harder. She loved you until the love became hunger. The room lights dimmed slightly, and I stayed trapped inside that hunger for a very long time. For several seconds, nobody moved. Then Adrian did what men like him had always done best. He became exactly what others needed him to be. Slowly, his expression softened. His shoulders lowered. Tears formed carefully within his eyes. "I'm sorry." The child stared silently at him. Adrian stepped forward carefully now. If I could change it, his voice cracked slightly, I would. Miriam's expression shifted faintly. The child hesitated. Only slightly. But Adrian noticed. Of course he noticed. Men like him survived by noticing weakness. He approached slowly. Gentle. Careful. I didn't know, he whispered. I didn't know she was carrying you. The child's face changed. Not anger. Not hatred. Something far more dangerous. Hope. Adrian placed his hands softly against Miriam's shoulders. I'm sorry, he repeated quietly. And for one terrible moment, the child wanted to believe him. That was her final mistake. Adrian moved instantly. His hand slammed Miriam violently against the wall. The back of her skull cracked loudly against the plaster. The locket flew loose from her neck. The child screamed. Not through Miriam. Through the entire room. The lights exploded overhead. Glass shattered. The walls groaned. Adrian bolted toward the window without hesitation. Without remorse. Without looking back. Exactly as the child knew he would. He threw himself through the glass. The storm swallowed him instantly. Rain crashed violently against the empty streets surrounding the Midnight Hotel district. Adrian ran. Past flooded alleyways. Past abandoned buildings. Past streets he did not remember seeing when he arrived. The city itself no longer made sense. The deeper he ran, the less familiar the world became. Fog rolled heavily across the streets now. Thick. Cold. Endless. His breathing burned inside his chest. Somewhere behind him, he thought he could still hear the child crying. Then finally, he saw the shore. Dark waves crashed endlessly beneath a pale fog-covered sky. An old wooden ferry waited silently beside the dock. A single lantern swayed gently near its bow. And seated calmly within the boat was the host. Adrian nearly collapsed from relief. You. The host looked up calmly. His black suit remained immaculate despite the rain. Silver chain glinting softly beneath the lantern light. Good evening, Mr. Valecourt. Adrian climbed into the boat immediately. We need to leave. The host gave a small nod. As you wish. The ferry slowly drifted away from the dock. Fog swallowed the shoreline almost immediately. For several minutes, neither man spoke. Only the sound of water against wood remained. Adrian's breathing slowly steadied. Then, something began bothering him. The shoreline behind them remained visible. Not closer. Not farther. Exactly the same distance away, no matter how long the boat moved. Adrian frowned slowly. Why aren't we going anywhere? The host remained quiet for several moments before answering. You misunderstand. The lantern light flickered softly across his pale face. You are no longer traveling. Adrian stared at him, then slowly looked downward. Blood covered his shirt. Dark, wet, a massive shard of broken glass protruded from his stomach. His hands began shaking violently. No. The memory returned instantly. The fall. The broken window. The jagged glass below. The pain. Adrian's breathing became shallow. The host watched him calmly. You never reached the shore, Mr. Valecourt. Silence filled the boat. You died in room 217. Something suddenly moved beneath Adrian's skin. A tiny handprint pressed outward briefly against his chest from inside. Then another. Childlike laughter echoed faintly somewhere beneath his heartbeat. Adrian panicked immediately. No, no, no. The child entered you before death, the host said quietly. The fog thickened around them. If left alone, she would remain trapped again. Adrian looked at him desperately. Please. For the first time. The host almost looked sympathetic. Almost. You were given more chances than most. Then he slowly lifted the black lantern beside him. The fog around the ferry thickened instantly. The sea disappeared. The sky disappeared. Everything disappeared. Only endless gray remained. And somewhere far behind them, the Midnight Hotel continued waiting patiently beneath the rain. Morning came quietly to the Midnight Hotel. Soft jazz drifted once more through the gramophone beside the lounge area, while pale rainwater slid gently down the tall stained glass windows, overlooking the empty street outside. The crimson carpet stretching from the entrance to the reception desk remained spotless once again, as though the hotel itself had cleaned away the night. Miriam Vale stood near the reception counter, dusting the massive guest registry carefully with a small cloth. Peaceful, calm, the silver locket was gone. So were the memories of blood and screams, and room 217. The host stood behind the desk, organizing several brass room keys calmly, while the grandfather clock beside the entrance continued its steady ticking. Then, the elevator beneath the staircase opened softly. Evelyn stepped out first, carrying a basket of folded towels against one hip. Behind her followed another maid, pushing a small laundry cart. Short black hair, pale skin, sleepy eyes. Unlike Evelyn's sharper posture, this maid looked permanently exhausted. She wore the same dark maid uniform, slightly improperly buttoned near the collar. "Miriam," Evelyn called out immediately, "do you realize you abandoned half the basement laundry last night?" Miriam blinked softly. "Did I?" "You absolutely did." The second maid sighed tiredly beside the cart. "I had to finish most of it before sunrise." Miriam looked genuinely confused. "I don't remember leaving early." "That," Evelyn replied dryly, "is because you somehow vanished for almost 3 hours." The second maid rubbed her forehead. "I nearly got blamed for it." Miriam frowned apologetically. "I'm sorry." The maid waved dismissively. "It's fine. Violet burns worse things in the kitchen anyway." From somewhere deeper within the staff corridor came the distant sound of glass shattering, followed immediately by a woman yelling. "That was not supposed to catch fire." Evelyn closed her eyes briefly. "There she goes again." Miriam unexpectedly laughed softly. Small, natural, the first genuine laugh she had given in days. The host quietly glanced upward from behind the reception desk. "Interesting." Then, the large ebony doors of the hotel opened. Oliver stepped inside carrying a wooden crate beneath one arm, while rainwater dripped lightly from his coat. "Morning," he muttered. He placed the crate gently onto the reception desk. Delivery came early. The host opened the crate carefully. Inside rested several vinyl records, wrapped neatly in paper sleeves. The host examined them briefly before looking toward Oliver. "You forgot the Twilight collection." Oliver froze instantly. "Damn it." Evelyn sighed. "Again." Oliver pointed defensively toward the storm outside. "In my defense, the delivery man was extremely unsettling." "The delivery man," the host replied calmly, "was a priest." Oliver blinked once. That explained somehow nothing. For the first time all morning, the host smiled faintly. The lobby settled once more into comfortable quiet. Normal. Almost ordinary. Miriam continued dusting the reception desk softly, while Evelyn and the others disappeared deeper into the staff corridors, arguing faintly about burned kitchen pans and unfinished laundry schedules. Then, Miriam paused. Her eyes lowered slowly toward the crimson carpet beneath her feet. Tiny muddy footprints stood beside her own. Small, barefoot, leading nowhere. Miriam stared at them quietly. And instead of fear, something warm touched her chest. Not memory, not grief, just comfort, like hearing the laughter of someone loved from another room. The footprints slowly faded moments later. Gone completely. Miriam smiled softly to herself, then resumed working. Behind the desk, the host calmly watched Miriam. "Some tragedies are meant to find solace," he said quietly into the peaceful lobby. A pause, his eyes shifting to the other staff members, going about their routine. Then the faintest smile touched his lips. Others merely learn how to adapt. The end. Thank you for watching and witnessing another story of the Midnight World. Please like and subscribe for more upcoming stories into the Midnight Universe.